we have done all that, we're still left with how do we cover the remaining deficits. And that's why the decision was made to eliminate the student support coordinator for student life, the student support coordinator for non-credit matriculation, and the student support coordinator for the Office of Relations with Schools. In many cases, I'll give you an example, the non-credit matriculation funding has dropped so much that it's now down, I don't even know what it is, last I saw it was around $75,000. That's all that's left in it. You don't need a full-time coordinator to coordinate $75,000. So when we begin talking about saving jobs, part of the issue has become, what do you have them do when those functions are disappearing as we speak? The CalWorks, as I mentioned, we have at least 2 vacancies in this department, so those have been frozen, and right now we're not recommending any further staffing reductions. The one thing that has saved that is the Human Services Agency has a program with Merced County Office of Education that makes child care funding available. So we have referred those students who are getting child care through our CalWorks program over to the county so that they can get funded through that. That saves some child staffing here. The Disabled Student Services Program, that number has been varying so much, it's been flipping back and forth, but at one point it was $277,000. I can't tell you right now exactly what it is. That's one of the numbers that seems to be most volatile that I see coming from the Chancellor's office. But among the things that they are planning to do is, again, they have some carryover dollars. We are planning to move 1 counselor under funding through the student health fees, and again, reducing hourly student funding. We are proposing the reduction of 2 19-hour employees in the alternative media program and freezing 1 test proctor position. The learning disability program, I would like to mention in particular because I think there is some confusion about that. People are thinking that we're talking about the faculty member who is on campus who does LD testing. That is not who we are referring to. We had a grant with the County of Merced for several years where we had a, was not a tenure track faculty person, and a classified person who did LD testing for county CalWorks participants. Okay, these were not Merced College paid students. Now maybe once in a while one of them might come over and register for Merced College, but the vast majority of them were county participants. In August, the county notified us that they were canceling that contract effective September 17th, because you've probably all seen the huge problems that Merced County is facing with their own budget cuts. And so they canceled our contract along with many others for that. We have continued to carry those employees for what will amount to about 2 months until they face a layoff. We had originally thought we were going to need to reduce 1 more person in the Career Transfer Center, and as Dr. Duran mentioned, Maisie literally is spending 16 hours a day going through our budget, and she was able to find enough money to bring back that 1 position. The final position is in our International Students Program, and we have had some student enrollment reductions in that. It's not been as some schools, but we have had some reductions. I am concerned primarily of finding ways to support these horrendous cuts to matriculation to try to keep the Maslow's hierarchy, at least at the bottom, step going. So it's an extremely difficult situation. And what, as we've been saying over and over again, this is built in some ways on a very shaky foundation. The ERA money goes away. We haven't even gotten it yet. It goes away at the end of this year. The carryover dollars that we had, that's gone. It does not carry over next year. We're expecting mid-year cuts. They keep coming up with these surprises for us. So before we know it, by the end of this year, we're $800,000 to maybe $1 million in the hole before we ever open student services in the fall. This is going to require massive rethinking on our parts. And like Dr. Duran, if we can come up with some solutions, I'm all for it. But it's going to be a real hard struggle. So that basically is my summary.
I'm just going to add some brief comments because you've heard a lot of different numbers tonight. But some of the numbers you haven't heard are just what the district faced when I arrived about 10 weeks ago. I will say that when I initially arrived and I took a look at the budgets and I took a look at the reserves, Merced College in some sense on the unrestricted general fund side was in better condition than the average district out there. When you get to the categorical side of the budget, you have to take a look at the decisions that are made from institutions to institution. Merced College is very people heavy in the categorical side of all of their programs. To just give you some different numbers to think about for a moment, the general fund, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, was cut by over 1.6 million. Categorical programs were cut by over 3 million. That's $4.6 million that the district has had to overcome to this point. Even before I arrived here as the Vice President of Business, and I'm not able to take credit for things that had already been done, about 5 months prior to my arrival, the district had already started to deal with these challenges. Some of the things that they did was reduce class sections, and I'm sure we've all heard that conversation. That saved the district quite a bit of money. So you can see that the $4.6 million figure just gets bigger. The other thing that the district did was make a decision to reduce travel only to critical travel. Another thing that the district did was actually freeze positions. And while those, you don't really see faces in the room or people sitting here, there's staff out there picking up a lot of extra workload as we speak and are having to deal with frozen positions. Every manager that comes to see me about a staff issue, they're kind of concerned about taking any action because they know if they make a decision to remove a position that it's going to be probably frozen unless it's mission critical. So reduced class sections, reduced travel, positions have been frozen, supply budgets have been stripped. A lot of departments are already working with less. And I'm not trying to take the human element or the human sensitivity out of this matter and just throw numbers out at you. But what I would have to say as a new manager in this district is that the district actually started long before I got here trying to deal with this problem to stay away from reducing staff positions. The categorical programs, unfortunately, took a very, very devastating hit. We've come up with every creative way we could think of to try and save staff positions. As Dr. Newens mentioned a few moments ago, we're not looking to put more dollars into hourly counseling. We're not looking to hire more student workers. We're not looking to hire hourly workers. Our focus is how do we save jobs? And that is what the focus has been. The managers in the student services area have scraped every budget they had from every carryover penny from the prior year. We're scraping every stimulus dollar we can. There's been quite a bit of encroachment on the general fund from the student services area just to save many, many jobs. And that has been the focus. And as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, even without thinking about next year, if the budgets come in level where they are now in student services, once again, the administration and the board will have to make a decision about whether or not the college is able to bail out the categorical programs to the tune of $1 million. Yes, these are all numbers. It doesn't make it any easier to hear me say this, and I do understand the human side of this issue. But I would say as an institution and in support of the administration, that was our primary focus as we went through this process. And I think to this point, we've done everything possible to make sure that we save jobs. Going forward, within the time frame pending the board's decision on this issue, there is a window of opportunity for other type of creative things to be done, if at all possible, if the news doesn't get worse. And I think the president spoke to that. So my closing remarks will just be that I would like everyone to know from me, the Vice President of Business, that I do understand the personal tragedy this may bring to some of you. But I will also say that yes, I've spent a lot of hours here trying to make it work. Personally myself.